Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Sports Daily. Glad to be here with you today. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. It is a Tuesday. Chad Chambers producing on that IHOP hotline, brought to you by IHOP, where guests can enjoy the new pumpkin spice pancake combo. Got a fun show coming up for you today. We can look back at Monday Night Football. We can look back at Game 3 of the World Series. We can look ahead to this weekend's football matchups, which are very, very big. Lance Leipold talked yesterday. We can go over some of the key points he brought up in his weekly press conference. Chris Kleiman will be later today, so we'll dig into that later in the week. We've got executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network, Dan Israel, coming up top of the next hour. We have all kinds of giveaways today. HTO will give away some tickets to the big pro wrestling event at Intrust Bank Arena. AEW coming to town for a live televised event. That'll be this weekend. We'll get some tickets to that as well. Get you set up for the day. A big day. Tommy, how are you?
I'm good. Happy Halloween. It's a busy day today. And, you know, for me, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Halloween guy. Never really have been. Now that, you know, I've got kids, I got to get into it a little bit more than like I ever have. So I'm really forcing myself to try to get into the Halloween spirit. Does not come natural to me.
Yeah, I don't love or hate Halloween. I loved it as a kid. It's always been, and my wife totally agrees on this, we've always been on the same page. Like Halloween and New Year's Eve are two holidays sure to disappoint. I think you could probably throw like Cinco de Mayo in there. Like there's all this buildup and hype and everything, and then it never seems to totally live up to it. I'm not very crafty, so costumes have never come easy for me either. But now with kids, it's super fun. I mean, that's the thing. Like now I love Halloween because my kids are so jacked up for it. Like, yeah, out of their minds excited about today. My 4-year-old son has been counting down the days for about a week now. So he's, you know, losing it. The girls love it. They've all assured me that it is not going to be too cold, that they will be fine tonight. Don't worry about that. So we'll see. It'll be a late night. They'll get hyped up on sugar, and it'll be probably like a rough landing the rest of the week to get through that, but it's all worth it. The one thing about Halloween that has to change, and it's ridiculous that we don't make it the last Saturday of the month. Like, why are we celebrating Halloween on a Tuesday? It's the dumbest thing. Like, we change the date on Thanksgiving every year. There's no, like, religious, well, I mean, I suppose there is to some degree, but, like, just make it the last Saturday of October, please, and we can solve all of these problems. Kids can stay up as late as they want. No issues there. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, my wife is a huge Halloween fan. Like, I've had to talk her out of I don't know, doing a Halloween graveyard in our backyard. I'm like, we're not doing that. Like, I'm not a Halloween guy, never have been. Really, like, I'm the kind of guy, like, before I was married, before I had kids, I was that guy that would go to the store, I would buy the bag of candy, and then I would turn my porch light off, and I would just eat all the candy myself in my house. Never really been into it, but like I mentioned before, now that I've got kids, like it's different. Like my son is really into it. He's a firefighter this year, like really excited about all of it. So like begrudgingly coming on board with it. My wife carved the pumpkins yesterday, and I don't know, like she goes like way like off the deep end with
But
Halloween.
no, listen.
Like
That's not a bad thing because that
Here-
just
here's
means
an-
you don't have
well,
to.
true. Good point. Here's an example of that. We've got those porch lights that have like the bulbs that you can change the colors on. And she was like, all right. And this was last night. All right, I'm changing the light bulb colors to orange and like purple, I think is what she did. I'm like, really? Like, these are porch lights. Like, do we have to have them be, colored for Halloween? Apparently we do. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of the bah humbug guy for Halloween. That's okay. I'm going to take my son out trick-or-treating tonight. It's going to be cold. We'll get through it. It's going to be all right. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like slowly but surely coming around on it.
Look, I think you'll enjoy it as your kids get older. And then what probably happens to a lot of people is their kids get too old, don't want their parents to be a part of it. And that's really when you can dig in on like freaking kids out and doing some of the scary stuff and actually like delivering the candy at trick or treat time, which also sounds fun. But again, I'm not crafty at all. So like decorating stuff. And while my wife is crafty, like neither of us are good decorators. Like that's not, which is funny. Like it's in my blood. My mom literally does that kind of stuff for a living. And I got none of it. Like I couldn't, like, you can see my decorating. I don't have that skill. And so I hope that at some point we can sort of take that on. The other problem for us right now, and I know nobody cares about this because we're all busy, right? But we're so dadgum busy with jobs and running businesses and doing all this. Like we just don't have time to do, like, it is a miracle that we got kids in their costumes to their places and will divide and conquer these class parties and do all this stuff today. It will be amazing that we even get through the day. But at some point, that it's going to be fun to like scare kids, right? Like just to really mess with them.
And this is another like bah humbug for me. Like I've never really been a fan of handing out the candy either at my house because, typically it's World Series time or it's, there's a football game on and I'm consistently, like constantly getting up. Every time the doorbell rings, I got to get up. I got to get the bowl of candy. I got to hand it out. I got to make small talk with 5-year-olds that I don't really want to do. And then I'm missing like part of the game I'm watching. So, I mean, historically, before I had kids, like I said, I was always the guy that turned off the porch lights. I didn't want anybody to come over because I, was going to be busy eating Kit Kats and watching baseball. So it's different now that I've got kids. I think I can get on board with it. Like you mentioned, the older they get, the more excited they get every year. I went and picked up Halloween donuts this morning, and our son was like super excited about it. So I can get on board with that for him. But like, I'm not a scary movie guy. I don't watch horror movies.
Absolutely
like I'm not in, like, my wife, every time I come home, like in the month of October, she's got like Hocus Pocus on or something like that. And I'm like, that's not me. I don't really care. Like, that's not really my scene.
I have reached the age that I am like ready to write an angrily worded letter to television executives for playing previews of scary movies during the things that I watch. Like, oh my God, my kids are going to see that. Like, honey, get the pen and paper. We're writing a letter right now. Like, let's go. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we've reached that level of things. No, I hate scary movies too. Like with a fiery passion, don't understand them. And, to all of you that love them and like can't get enough of them, you might have a problem. So there, and I'm not afraid. I don't have to be embarrassed about being scared of that stuff anymore because I'm a grown adult.
Let's do a little bit of group therapy here for a second. Like I think I've got like a deep-seated reason why I'm not a Halloween fan, and I'll admit it here in front of our listeners, in front of our viewers. Like I'll admit it right now. I know the reason why. It goes back to when I was a kid. my parents were like not really super into like the scary things. Like I couldn't be anything bloody. I couldn't be anything satanic. I couldn't be any like, like it was very
Yeah.
much like you can't do that as a kid. So like, my buddies have like fake blood coming out of their heads and like, makeup with like wounds and like all the gross stuff. Meanwhile, I'm an Eminem for Halloween, or like I'm Elvis for Halloween. Yeah. And so like I think I got made fun of a little bit, because my costume wasn't on like the gory, nasty, like little
You got made
boy,
fun
like
of for that?
well, not really made fun of, but just like, oh, like you can't be anything bloody. Well, no, I'm an Eminem, like my mom like homemade my costume, which was great. Like, thank you for doing that, mom. But like, I wasn't, it wasn't anything gory, I guess. So I think that's part of the reason why I'm a little bit like anti-Halloween as an adult.
We have not had pushback on this, thank goodness, because I don't know how much longer we can pull this off. But we have done an excellent job of like multi-year costume use. So
for sure.
Like we had our oldest was a Paw Patrol dog. All three of them at some point have been Paw Patrol dogs. Two of them have been Peppa Pigs, like the hand-me-downs. And so our younger two were the same thing 2 years in a row. Like we've really mastered getting the mileage out of these. And I know that will change. But yeah, happy Halloween, everybody. I'm not anti-Halloween like Tommy is. I'm not good at it. But I love it. I love it now with kids. We'll go trick-or-treating. We'll freeze our butts off. And the other issue here is, Tommy, we'll be dealing with all this while there's a World Series game happening. I don't know how late the trick-or-treating will last because it will be so dadgum cold. Like, I'm going to get home immediately and be like, let's go trick-or-treating now so we can be done and back in time for the baseball game. Because the baseball game was intense last night. It was I didn't know if the Rangers were going to be able to hang on there, and they had to have it, Tommy, because the cost at which it came is high, and now they'll have to overcome that. Who knows if Scherzer's done for the series? He wasn't lights out yesterday by any means, but he was certainly better than he was in the Houston series. And then Adolis Garcia, and it's an oblique. And man, I don't know how he's going to try. To me, there seems like there's no chance he'll be able to play through that. Like oblique injuries just crater athletes all the time. And that's you want to talk about a hole in the lineup. He's been everything for this team. He had to play his defensive play yesterday, set the tone for the game. Like it totally flipped the game upside down when he gunned down Christian Walker. I'm very concerned. They had to have it last night and they got it. And I'm not trying to be like, reverse jinx or anything here. But, if I'm Arizona and I see that, I still feel pretty good about things in the series. It almost feels more like the Rangers have got to win tonight than the Diamondbacks and go up 3-1 because at 2-2, if you're out Adolis Garcia and then potentially out Scherzer for a game 7, if it comes, again, like the momentum here doesn't even after last night, doesn't feel like it's in the Rangers' court because of those injuries.
I think those two injuries are very different, and the impact that they bring are very different. I don't think that there is a likelihood at all that we see Max Scherzer again this series. I really don't. I mean, watching the amount of pain that he was in and trying to throw the ball. Now, of course,
he did get drilled in the back with a line drive, though. Maybe
a game 7 is several days away, right? So like there can always be rest and ice and medicine and all those different things, stretching. I have a hard time thinking that at his age and with the injuries that he's already worked through to get back in this postseason, I have a hard time thinking that we're going to see him in game 7. Adolis Garcia, I know it's an oblique and I know that can be super, super painful. But if you're in a World Series, and I'm no doctor, I don't know Adolis Garcia, but if you're in a World Series and you're getting into game 4, at least in my mind, maybe I'm wrong here, I think it's something you can battle through. I think it's something you can power through. You might not be able to have the same kind of pop that you had before in swinging the bat and that sort of thing. But man, I think that's a massive blow if he can't go. So I think they're going to try to do everything in their power to get him on that field probably tonight. And maybe it's something where maybe he's available off the bench as a pinch hitter tonight or something like that. But I think they're going to do everything that they can to get him going. I just don't think we're going to see Max Scherzer. I think those two things are very, very different.
Oh, I'm far more concerned about Garcia than I am Scherzer. Scherzer wasn't even sharp last night. Like, he's battling. I've grown to appreciate him more now because he's just like, he doesn't have it. So he's just trying to battle through. Like, John Gray looked 10 times better than Max Scherzer.
He looked great.
So if it's John Gray in Game 7, I'd rather have that anyway at this point. But Garcia is a problem, and even if he tries to tough it out, like, if it's your oblique, like, you can't put a full swing on a ball. So I don't even know that it's the best thing if he does try and play through it, if he's really hurt.
I mean, I'm not sure that, again, like, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how oblique injuries work, but I don't think it's something where you're risking like further damage. Like, it looks like it's an oblique pull or an oblique strain. It's painful. It's not something that's pleasant, when you're rotating and doing all those different things that you need your oblique for. But I'm not sure it's something that if, they bring him out, he's at risk of damaging something that is like really serious. I think it's more like a pain tolerance, pain management, kind of thing. You add like all the different things that a team can do to get the pain down, and then you add on top of it the adrenaline of a World Series. I'm not suggesting he's going to be okay or at full strength or anything like that, but I think that they can get him to a point to at least maybe be able to go. I mean, I think time will tell.
I don't know that that's the best thing if it's his oblique. Like, that's the thing.
But it's not.
Like,
I don't think is it anything that he can further injure? I'm not sure that it is.
I just don't know, like, the torque at which he swings with. If it's your oblique, you're not going to be able to generate that same, torque. There's just no way. So maybe it was just a slight tweak and it feels better. Maybe they can shoot it up with whatever they do to make things better quickly in sports. I don't know, but it is concerning. And they'll have to get right back at it tonight. Now, Corey Seager is all the way back, so that helps. He is. The stats show it. I don't think I've ever seen anybody hit the ball as hard as Seager has hit those last 2 home runs. Last night's was apparently the hardest hit a ball has been on a home run in the era that they start tracking that, since 2015. I mean, he is. Even when he's missing, it looks like he's going to hit his fly ball out of the arena. Like, it's crazy how hard he's hitting the ball right now. So maybe that will overcome it. And the Diamondbacks are just right there. Like, again, it feels like the burden is more on the Rangers to win tonight to some degree. They'll go Andrew Haney. They were going to go John Gray, so it messed that up, and the Diamondbacks will go a bullpen game. But they got to take advantage now, because the longer this series go, the more the Rangers are going to feel those injuries.
I honestly don't think that the Rangers' backs are against the wall like you're suggesting.
No. I don't think their back is against the wall. But if this series goes a long way, like if it goes to 6 or 7 games, they're going to, like, every game it stretches, these injuries potentially impact the series more, if that makes any sense. Like, not having Adolis Garcia over, what are we going into, Game 4 over the next, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 games would be much different than 2 if they can just quickly get after it, I guess.
And I can't believe I'm the one that's doing this between the two of us. I'm going to be positive about the Rangers for a second. Last night, their bullpen was phenomenal. And,
Aroldis Chapman was not, but otherwise it was, yeah.
Right. But it's a bullpen that's been the topic of conversation throughout the entire postseason. Yeah. And, I know that, like, the bullpen gave up 1 run and the Diamondbacks got the deficit down to 2 at one point. But man, like, when, Scherzer goes out in the 4th inning, I texted you, I'm like, uh-oh, like, here we go. And John Gray was great out of the pen. But man, like, that had been, like I mentioned, the topic of conversation to where we'd even talked about it, where, man, that bullpen for the Rangers is suspect, and that's going to be the opportunity for the Diamondbacks to take advantage of. If the D-backs had been able to do that last night, then I think that there is a high level of concern with the Diamondbacks potentially up 2-1 and the injury concerns that the Rangers have.
If the Rangers were down 2-1, it would be.
Even though you've got a Scherzer injury and an Adolis Garcia injury, man, like, I still feel like the Rangers are in pretty good shape altogether.
They're okay, but it would be the equivalent of the Diamondbacks losing, like, Corbin Carroll or Ketel Marte. Like, you're talking about Adolis Garcia is on an historic run this postseason. That's significant. The bullpen, it's the Bruce Bochy effect, right? Like, the bullpen was terrible in the regular season. I was just but people are mad at John Smoltz for pointing that out. Rangers fans are mad at John Smoltz, apparently. I haven't been bothered by John Smoltz as an analyst. But the Rangers bullpen is not good. However, the regular season bullpen that was terrible didn't have Heaney, Dunning, Gray in it. Those were starters. So the fact that they're getting innings out of those guys has masked what's been just a dreadful middle of the bullpen. Leclerc, the closer, has picked it up. He's been fine. And Sabor's the 7th inning guy they're using right now is probably been their most effective and electric reliever. Chapman sucks, man. He's an adventure every time he takes him out. But he's a lefty.
He got out of it. Yesterday.
But he gets into it every time.
I know.
And he did give up a run. He got out of it. Yeah, I guess he didn't give up 3 runs. But he's a lefty, and they got to have him. I would like to see Bochy, who's pushing all the right buttons here. I wish he would stop, chiseling him. And I'm a chisel him into their role guy. But I would just use him in lefty-lefty situations and then get him the hell out of there. Just use your other guys. We'll see. Game 4 later tonight on Halloween. Jad's got some good spooky stuff set up for us. Let's talk about Monday Night Football a little bit when we come back. That was as bad an offensive performance as I can remember seeing ever from the Raiders last night. And I only tuned in to the end of it, but I was keeping up with it. Blech, that was bad. Lions bounce back nicely. We'll get into Monday Night Football. On the way out here, Jad, let's give away some AEW tickets, a pair of tickets. AEW makes it to Wichita for the first time ever. Collision live on TNT at Intrust Bank Arena this Saturday, November 4th. Get you a pair of tickets to that pro wrestling event. If you missed our interview with Paul White, a.k.a. The Big Show, a.k.a. The Giant, former Shocker basketball player and wrestling global superstar, you can go back to KFH Radio. We got that linked up on the website right there for you. Good luck, everybody. Win some wrestling tickets. We'll be back with more Sports Daily right after this.
Your phone call is welcome. 869-1240. Sports Daily on 97.5 and 1240. KFH, Wichita's #1 sports radio.
Come and enjoy a free birthday boil at Hook and Reel. Valid only with a minimum of a 2 entree purchase, proof of ID, and also valid 3 days before and 3 days after birthday. Located in Town East Parking Lot, East Kellogg.
It's cold outside, but spring mowing season will be here soon. Now is the time to bring your Husqvarna mower to Maximum Outdoor Equipment for the Husqvarna Winter Service Special. Save 25% off winter service labor or free pickup and delivery within a 25-mile radius now through December. Avoid the spring service crunch and save money with the Husqvarna Winter Service Special. South of 21st and Andover Road or west location south of Kellogg on West Street or visit MaximumOutdoor.com.
Toppers Plus Truck Accessories has moved to a new location at 333 Northwest Street. Whether you're working or playing, Toppers Plus will get your truck ready with Rhino linings. Nothing beats a Rhino, the leader in sprayed-on truck bed liners that outperforms plastic drop-in rubber mats and paint-like coatings. They won't crack, peel, or warp and include a lifetime warranty. Toppers Plus, your Rhino dealer. Visit our new location at 333 Northwest Street or toppersplusks.com.
Make your truck work for you!
Imagine the sweet, tangy, rich flavor of barbecue sauce and the smoky, salty taste of crispy bacon. Well, you don't have to imagine any longer. Try the Spangles Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's a 1/3 pound of Black Angus steak burger on a butter-toasted bun, then topped with smoky barbecue sauce, crispy bacon, and onions. The Spangles Western Bacon Cheeseburger. The perfect burger for your sweet, tangy, smoky, savory cravings.
Freshness made to order. Spangles, it just tastes better.
Here's Renee Stephen from Spangles with a sweet treat.
Come in and try our Gerdelli Sea Salt Caramel Apple Pie Slide and make it your new favorite treat. Stop in soon because it's only back for a limited time.
Back at Spangles, the Caramel Apple Pie Slide. We start with an entire slice of warm apple pie and add layers of creamy vanilla soft serve and top it off with Ghirardelli Sea Salt Caramel. It's a sweet spin on a time-treasured treat. Spangles, it just tastes better.
Football and basketball seasons are in full gear, and BetQL is ready to help you win more consistently this year. BetQL is an absolute game changer if you're looking to find trends to help you win. Make smarter bets on spreads, totals, player props, and more. BetQL has already helped over 300,000 people with powerful analytics and community insights. Don't fumble the ball at the goal line or airball any free throws this season. Visit BetQL.com for their free daily analysis today. That's BetQL.com.
Lowe's knows pros want savings now. That's why, as an MVP's Pro Rewards member, you get volume savings on orders of $1,500 or more at the Pro Desk. And there's more. We've lowered our prices on select top products like electrical wire and drywall, so you can get the job necessities for less. Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. In-store only. Exclusions, restrictions, and more terms apply. Details at Lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Discover, this is Daniela.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Do you like asparagus and mushroom sorbet? I've got leftovers.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
Happy 62nd birthday, Granddad.
Thanks, sweetheart.
I got you this.
A mug. What does it say? Beware. If you are 60 or older, you may be at increased risk of serious consequences from RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, compared to adults younger than 60.
Not all dangers come with warning labels. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today. RSV vaccines, including Pfizer's, are available. Learn more at bewareofrsv.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
O'Reilly Auto Parts' new Brake Best Select Pro brand raises the bar for the best aftermarket domestic brake pads and rotors available. For vehicle-specific friction formulations, Quiet-Tech noise-canceling shims, and stainless steel hardware, choose Brake Best Select Pro. Professional-grade brakes from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Imagine a career where you see your work every time you look up into the sky. At Textron Aviation, we make world-class Cessna and Beechcraft aircraft, and we're looking for people to join us. Explore the possibilities at txtav.com/careers.
Brought to you by Textron Aviation. Explore the possibilities at txtav.com/careers.
The commercials are over.
Yo, I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily. Appreciate the Halloween tunes from Jad. Alex wins tickets for Saturday's AEW Collision. Congratulations to Alex. We'll give away some HTO as well in just a little bit. By the way, at HTO, if you wear your costume into the store, Tommy, you can get happy hour pricing all day at any of the locations. So half price cups of tea. So find something.
Find a costume then.
Find a costume. Yeah. My kids asked me what I'm going to be. And again, like I get caught off guard. I thought about it, and what I'll do is I have some old like Rangers jerseys back from when I was younger, like in college. I could just put on one of those and like a Rangers beanie or something and be a baseball player. I think I have like a Mark Teixeira Rangers jersey. Huh? And then I had another, I was looking through them and I had another one that has my name on the back that a girlfriend got me one time. And for some reason, I have no idea why. There's blood like dried all over the front of it.
What?
Yeah,
did something happen with that? Is that why she's your ex-girlfriend?
Maybe somebody thought they were going to test Mickey Blaze sometime. Okay. Would be my guess. I legitimately have no idea why. No clue. Don't remember. It's been like, what has it been since being gone? 20 years since college? Like whatever it is. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But I guess I could wear that one. It's got blood. Maybe that makes it scarier, right?
Yeah.
Like it would also embarrass embarrass my wife. Maybe I will wear the one with blood stains.
Here's an idea for you that just came to mind. You can wear the Rangers get up with the blood on the jersey and all of that, and like a mask, and then bring a chainsaw, and then it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's good. I don't have a chainsaw, but that's good. Oh man, I should have been Terry Funk for Halloween. See, I don't have like whatever. I'll put on a bloody Rangers jersey. That'll work. All right. So you just sent me this, and we can get to Monday Night Football a little bit later if we feel like it. The Lions win over the Raiders. The Raiders look terrible. I don't know what they're doing. So Spot Track, which does a good job, and I just lost it, of course, they put out, and this is a really handy tool for us, as we were talking yesterday about potential receivers out there. And there's some good ones on here. There's some really good ones, and some could make sense. So the list that they point out as potential trade candidates, and I'm sure that these were put on the list because of like who's been rumored about being available. I'll take you through the list first. And he did this with other positions too. He did it with running backs, and I don't think the Chiefs are going to be in the running back business. I think if they do anything, it will be the wide receiver business. So Cortland Sutton, Marquise Brown, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darnell Mooney, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jerry Jeudy, Adam Thielen, DeAndre Hopkins, Terrace, Marshall. So on that list, Tommy, we'll just go through it. Cortland Sutton is probably a very real trade candidate, but he's going to cost $8 million, and that would be a non-candidate for the Chiefs. Hollywood Brown, 7.5 would be a no. Hunter Renfrow and Devontae Adams basically for this year come with the same price tag. Now, Devontae Adams kicks in a big salary next year. Renfrow was clearly put on display by the Raiders last night, played more than he has all year. But Hunter Renfrow is not what the Chiefs need. They need a downfield guy. Devontae Adams is really interesting. Now, I don't know, though, because they could probably figure out a way to make it work this year, but certainly couldn't after this year. But I don't think that they're going to do that, because I think that compromises too much down the road. That'd be a pipe dream, I think, for Chiefs fans, and one that has been pointed out in the last 48 hours. Darnell Mooney at 1.6. I like Darnell Mooney. I'm not sure Darnell Mooney is somebody who can step right in. I do like that player, though, quite a bit. Donovan Peoples-Jones, non-starter for me. Jerry Jeudy would be a non-starter for me. Adam Thielen would be great. I don't think that Carolina is going to trade, again, Bryce Young's safety blanket. DeAndre Hopkins. Boy, DeAndre Hopkins is interesting too, Tommy, but I don't think that they want to trade Will Levis's safety blanket if that's the way they're going with him. I mean, I wouldn't if I was Tennessee, but if they would, that would certainly be somebody to call on. And then Terrace Marshall, no thanks. So for me, like of all of that list, I would be interested in a few of them, like Darnell Mooney, but Darnell Mooney's not going to step in immediately and help the Chiefs. I think the only two guys on that list there's three guys on that list that could step in and probably help right away. And it's Adams, Thielen, and D-Hop. I just don't know. I mean, Adams would be the most likely to get traded, but I don't think the Chiefs can afford that salary next year. And then so you could afford it this year, but I don't even know what you could do with it next year. Could they sign him and restructure him?
Yeah,
maybe?
there'd have to be a restructuring like right away. Like you trade for him, and then all of a sudden there's a new contract or a different contract of some kind. And the fact that it's $17 million next season guaranteed. I mean, that is an issue after this season, but the salary for this year is, I think, doable at 3.8. I mean, they've got around that in the cap space right now. They could make that work, but they'd have to try to figure out something else after this season is done. I think the big issue with that particular trade is I don't know if the Raiders are going to be likely to trade Devontae Adams to a division rival. And knowing that it's the Chiefs, and knowing that the Chiefs have basically ran all over that division for a long time, why would the Raiders want to strengthen them even more? And so I don't know if that's realistic. I like Adam Thielen a lot. I think that Adam Thielen is somebody that has been grossly underrated for a number of years. He's done really nice things in Carolina.
Well, he's had a nice resurgence
with the Panthers.
Yeah.
He really has. So I mean, he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. That helps. And then, of course, D-Hop, we've talked about at length. I like all of those candidates. I know that Darnell Mooney, he might be, I don't
He doesn't help them right now, though. That's the
He
problem.
might be the most likely guy, though. I mean, as
I
I'm going
like
through this
Darnell
list,
Mooney.
he might
I
be the
like
most likely.
Darnell Mooney a lot, and Darnell Mooney has been a victim of bad quarterback play for his skill set. So, if they traded for Darnell Mooney, it would be like what they did for Kadarius Toney last year. I think,
right?
A longer term move. Maybe there's some upside this year. Some, I don't know. I would tell you that I like Darnell Mooney, the player, more than I like Sky Moore or MVS or anybody they have outside of Rashee Rice right now. Like I really like that player. I just don't know if he helps them right now. And I think if the Chiefs make a move like this, it's got to be for somebody that helps them right now. And that's kind of the problem. Is there's only a couple of guys on this list that would, that you could definitively say, yeah, that guy would help them right now.
I go back to what we talked about yesterday. I mean, looking at this list and looking at the salaries and everything at the trade deadline, if I'm Brett Veach, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling Tennessee. Like, what's it going to take?
Sure.
To get DeAndre Hopkins.
He absolutely makes the most sense. There's no question. But Tennessee's got other things to think about, too. If they pulled Derrick Henry off the table, which they reportedly did, I think the reason they did that is to help see if they can develop Levis. That would be the thing for me. I would love D-Hop, too.
But everybody has a price. Everybody has a price,
but
right?
what price are you willing to pay?
But if you've got Will Levis, right, and you are going to potentially try to build a team around him, and I mean, let's pump the brakes a little bit. It was 1 week, good week from Will Levis.
But
if they want
to
see what they have, if they want to see what they have in Will Levis in that offense and build around him, then man, I understand how talented DeAndre Hopkins is, but is it better long term for the Titans to have an additional second-round pick or something like that, to be able to develop a young team around Will Levis? I mean, you can kind of look at the way that the Texans are doing things right now, building around C.J. Stroud, and they loaded up on draft capital and got Will Anderson, and they've got younger players there, and they're building a culture around the young rookie quarterback. The Titans can do the same thing. I'm not sure if a plus 30-year-old wide receiver, albeit very talented in DeAndre Hopkins, is the right long-term fit for the Titans.
He's not, but a part of developing a quarterback is making sure they don't get killed, right? By the way, the Texans and the Titans have the same record. So you can say like, well, why doesn't Houston go trade Dalton Schultz, or why doesn't Houston go trade, I don't know. I mean, Nico Collins is young enough where it's not apples to apples. But the reason you don't do any of that is because you want those guys to be a part of the development.
But they've already
Stroud.
built, like they had the draft capital before, and they built a young team around him. Like,
but
this is the Titans' opportunity now moving forward.
That's why I mean, but what's most important for Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and potentially Will Levis. Now, I don't think Levis is going to be the guy. I think D-Hop made some plays for him. But you have to know, and we see it time and time and time again in the NFL, these talented young quarterbacks get put in bad situations, and it destroys their ability to develop into a good quarterback. That's why I don't think Thielen's going anywhere, and that's why if I'm Tennessee, I'm not trading D-Hop outside of a first-round pick.
Don't you think with D-Hop and the Titans that, I mean, D-Hop had an incredible game on Sunday, and it was really the first time in a long time that the NFL collectively, the fan base, D-Hop was at the top of the headlines, right? Like 3 touchdown catches, and it was like he's at the top, like he's
reached max
the trade
deadline.
deadline.
There's no
max trade value right now. Like if I'm the Titans, like, okay, let's cash that in, because like he's not going to be at that value probably again. And especially the timing of it right before the deadline.
I mean, it's hard because right now, how many teams make the playoffs now? 7. They're in the playoff picture.
Yeah.
Like they're right there. Like I don't know how you justify that to the guys in the locker room. If somebody wants to offer you a first-round pick, okay, fine. But they're not going to. I mean, you can't go trade D-Hop for a 3rd or 4th round pick, which is probably what somebody would be willing to give up right now for him. I just don't think they're going to do it. And if you're the Chiefs, I don't want the Chiefs giving up a 2nd-round pick for D-Hop.
And I think you could probably get more out of D-Hop if I'm the Titans than probably Derrick Henry.
Yeah, probably so. It depends. I mean, it depends on the suitor, but they already pulled Henry off the table, I think, because they're like, well, you know what? We're kind of in contention here.
Well, I think they probably pulled Henry off the market because they weren't getting the kind of value that they wanted to get.
Yeah, but Henry, they have his replacement is locked in and ready to roll. Like they could absolutely trade Derrick Henry and still have a shot with Tyjae Spears. But Derrick Henry gives you a better shot. And that's Mike Vrabel there. Like Tennessee, if Will Levis doesn't suck, Tennessee's got a chance to make the playoffs. Like for real right now. Like if Levis gives them anything, which it looks like he can at least take shots and do all those things, Tennessee's going to have a chance to be in the postseason. I don't think there's any question about that. So and not like, are they going to win a Super Bowl? No, but you're talking about, a situation where maybe everybody makes it in the AFC North. The Chiefs will make it. The Jags will make it. So then it's a mix of Chargers, Raiders. Are the Raiders really in it? Maybe, I guess so. Texans, Titans, Colts. Like, you feel decent about your chance there if you're the Titans. At least I would. Devontae Adams is the interesting one. Like, that's the one that has both interest on. If I'm the Raiders, I absolutely trade because they're ready to tear down. What are the Raiders doing?
He wants out. He wants out of Vegas.
And he wants out.
Time. You can tell that.
He'd be the most expensive too. Let's explore him specifically when we come back, because there has been a lot of chatter among, the Chiefs social media world to like drool over Devontae Adams. But would that make sense? We'll talk about it next. Sports Daily, 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. Coming right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily. Little Simpsons Halloween there. You a Treehouse of Horror guy, Tommy?
No, I'm not.
Jad, you strike me as a
I don't
Simpsons
really know
guy.
what that is. Oh, it's a Simpsons. Okay.
Are you a Simpsons guy, Jad?
I used to be quite a lot. Recently, not so much, but I did get Disney Plus just to try and get through it all. I did not.
That was my very first pandemic project too. So growing up, The Simpsons was by far my favorite show, and I could probably have recited like every episode to you through maybe the first like 8 seasons, and I bet I haven't seen a Simpsons episode in 20 years now. That show in its early years, because that was a pandemic project when that happened, I mean, it was unbelievably good.
Yeah.
It's so good if you go back and watch like when that show really took off early on. It's crazy how good it was. But I appreciate the Simpsons reference there.
Yeah.
Tommy, by the way, Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated is reporting that he doesn't expect the Chiefs to do anything. So I think there's a lot of chatter. I'm with him. I don't think they will either. Draft capital is too important when you have to, pay these expensive players like they do. I don't think they're doing anything. That doesn't mean we can't wonder if they do what would be the thing to do. I don't think it's going to happen. Davante Adams. Davante Adams is, even at 30 years old, which is, dangerous with a wide receiver, if he gets traded, will probably command like at least a second-round pick, if not a first. The money's there. I mean, it's not going to happen. The Chiefs they're not going to do it because I don't think they can afford him next year.
I don't think the Raiders will trade him to the Chiefs. That's the biggest thing in my mind.
Why do the Raiders? I mean, I don't think the Raiders, because they're about to blow it up and rebuild anyway. I think that is a little overrated. Okay, so let's say the Chiefs trade a first. Let's say the Chiefs are like, we'll give you a first or a second for Davante Adams. The Raiders are going to make that move. What do they think? They're going to be competitive in Davante Adams' window where he can come back and hurt them? No, you got to just take the best offer. If Davante Adams at best has 3 years left, and that, history tells us that that's probably not the case, the Raiders aren't going to be good then. They got to start over. Like, that's the problem for the Raiders. The Raiders should be shopping everybody because they got to find a quarterback and start over. Like, you have Max Crosby and Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs. Like, if I'm the Raiders, I would trade all of those guys, and I would get much draft capital. I know
a lot out of Max Crosby. I mean,
Yes,
alone,
you
like
could.
all those other guys. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna get a return too. But man, Max Crosby, I think there are some teams out there that would they would pay up to bring Max Crosby in.
The problem for the Raiders is, no, I don't think the Raiders are as bad as some of the worst teams in football right now, but they're not anywhere near close enough to try and push it through like they thought it would be. And out there in a new city, you're not like, nothing is going to, tamper Raiders buzz enough that you would be concerned about it. But you have got to find the next coach and the next quarterback for that team. Like, could you imagine the Raiders? You want to stick it to the Chiefs? Get in a position where you can draft your quarterback of the future and then make Eric Bieniemy your head coach, right? Like, they're going to have to do something because this isn't it. It's not Josh McDaniels and it's not Garoppolo, even though Garoppolo is a fine stopgap. If that's what he is the rest of his career, he can't stay healthy anyway. So I don't know if they just burn it down. They should. I mean, that was awful last night. That was just absolutely embarrassing offensively. I needed 21 yards out of Michael Mayer, the young tight end, Tommy. He got 19 on one dang catch. That would have capped off my tremendous betting weekend. He was the last leg of some things for me. But, God, just embarrassing.
A couple of other wide receiver notes. I know that you said Albert Breer is saying that the Chiefs are not going to do anything.
Not expected to.
It does look like there might be one possibility, but it's not bringing in a wide receiver. It's getting one out. Jeremy Fowler is reporting that Richie James and the Chiefs are exploring trade possibilities for him to move somewhere else. Hasn't really done anything. He's on injured reserve right now. So that is a possibility. And then another name that I mentioned yesterday as a potential of somebody that, could be traded, that could come in to Kansas City, that is not going to happen now, is Kendrick Bourne from the Patriots. He tore his ACL over the weekend, so his season is done. I mentioned him as a potential, but he will not be traded by the Patriots because he's out. So I don't know. I mean, it looks like, I guess when maybe Kansas City brought in McCole Hardman, that Richie James might be the odd man out.
Well, I mean, yeah, that makes sense, right? If Richie James is going to be your special teams guy, and that's really the only reason you brought in McCole Hardman. It is, and he muffed that punt, I know, but you can't have that. It was the conditions were a little bad. Whatever. I'm not going to cast him aside as a special teams player, but again, McCole Hardman is not going to step in and be the savior of that. He wasn't good enough to do that before they let him go the first time. That's not going to happen. If he can't help you on special teams, he's not really going to help you do anything. And they have a whole lot of those guys in Kadarius Toney, in Sky Moore, in McCole Hardman. I don't know. Rashee Rice has stepped up. I'm in on Rice for sure. Can somebody else catch 3 balls a game? 4 balls a game? Is that too much to ask?
I mean, I think the most likely out of the entire contingent, you've got Travis Kelce at 1, you've got Rashee Rice at 2, and then, man, is it too far of a stretch to say Justin that the Watson. Third receiver? No, I was going to say Noah Gray. The backup tight end is probably up there too.
They'll get it done. Again, don't look too much into the weird circumstances of Sunday and forget that their passing game was clicking the 3 weeks before, right? Mahomes was over 300 yards in 2 of those games and 400 in the other. You know what we should do? We should dig into it with the executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network, Dan Israel. Let's do that next, in fact. We'll do it. Sports Daily rolling into hour number 2 right after this.
Caught! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Hey, Chiefs Kingdom, we have you covered. Joining Sports Daily Live, executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network, Dan Israel.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. You heard Ted there. It's time for a visit with Dan Israel. Dan, you've had better Tuesdays, I'm sure. Happy Halloween to you. There's a spooky outcome on Sunday, but Chiefs, I'm sure. What is the travel? When are you going to Germany?
Germany starts basically, the travel starts Thursday afternoon. We leave Kansas City, I think, about 4 o'clock, and then we arrive in Germany at like 9 in the morning. I believe they're 7 hours ahead of us. And so we get there at 9 in the morning. So the idea is that, if all of us sleep on the plane, it'll minimize the jet lag. But the problem with that philosophy is I've never been able to sleep on a plane, and I'm sure some of those players are in the same boat.
Are you concerned at all? Because I wondered about this, and we'll get into the game specifically, but as we're talking about travel, and I guess if you don't leave till Thursday, maybe there's time for this, but like if whatever Mahomes had potentially spreads on an airplane? Like, do you put him in bubble wrap? Does he get to take his own plane? Like, how do you make sure that doesn't get to the rest of the team before a big game against the Dolphins?
No, you don't. And that is a concern. I mean, there are he rode on the plane with us from Denver. And, I think he began to feel bad maybe on Friday night or Saturday night. But when you're in the middle of that, you're contagious. So it is really tough. Now, he was wearing a mask. I did see him wearing a mask on the plane, and you try to do your best, but you're 10 hours on a plane and somebody on that plane is going to be ill. You just know it. And so it is difficult. A lot of times flu sweeps through a locker room without the travel, right? So, yeah, it's always a concern. Now, I do think that a few days, the Dolphins, I believe, left yesterday. It's a head coach's decision. And so McDaniels wanted to take the Dolphins yesterday, and Reed just doesn't do that. When we went to London, we did this as well, where we left on Thursday night, and same with Mexico City in 2019. But I think those illnesses are always a concern. I think one of the things you see about players is they can give a player fluids. What you don't want to do is get them in that 24 to 36 hour window when it's really hitting them and the treatment hasn't yet taken effect. And that's exactly what we had with Mahomes on Sunday in Denver. Now, with that said, I would not say that Mahomes was the problem. He didn't play his best game, but in a game where there's 5 turnovers, you shouldn't expect to win that game. That doesn't happen. Everybody had a hand in that mess. It was spooky indeed.
Yeah, so the 5 turnovers, Dan, the fact that Mahomes was ill leading up to the game, the cold weather, all of it, is it a game that you can just wad up and throw in the trash can and move on, or are there some things that are legitimately concerning in your mind moving forward?
Well, I know there are guys that say, look, we're not even going to look at the film. There are coaches that say, we're not going to look at the film. That was such a mess. That was so uncharacteristic for us. We're not going to go back and review that. And I do think in the big picture of it all, that was an uncharacteristic game for the Kansas City Chiefs. However, I also know Andy Reid, and he is not going to let a teaching moment go by. There was too many things that went wrong in that game. And I think at the very least, that game should serve as notice that if you don't put your best product on the field at all times, anybody can beat you. And I don't want to say it had the impact as a game, a win-loss impact that this game coming up in Germany against the Dolphins is going to have, because this game coming up in Germany could very well determine home field advantage in the playoffs right now, the way the Dolphins are playing. However, it did have an impact overall to your season. I mean, you could have put the Broncos completely out of it. I think the Broncos would have gone into fire sale mode if you had beaten them. I think the Chiefs would have been in a position where they've earned an error of margin, a little comfort zone where you could make a mistake and stumble down the road. Now you can't. You're in a 4-way tie, I believe, with teams in the AFC. And the reality of it is it's tough, man, week to week. And that loss, while certainly isn't going to change, everything about their season, made it a little bit tougher on this upcoming game. And this upcoming game is indeed going to be kind of a postseason or a playoff type atmosphere, because I just think the Dolphins, the Jaguars, these are the teams that are going to be in it in the end, and you've got to win against those.
So I would, Dan, chalk this up to and liken it to the Colts game from a year ago, perhaps the Titans game from 2 years ago. I know others may have far more concern about the underlying storylines of the game. Where do you put it? Are the Chiefs really in a position of like, this wide receiver room is not going to work? Or is this just one to write off in the 3 weeks prior we can look at? I mean, I suspect it's probably somewhere in the middle, but what's your overarching reaction to that loss as we look at the season as a whole?
Yeah, and I think what Coach Reid said yesterday was really important and valuable, in that it isn't just the receivers dropping the ball that are a problem. That is a problem. That is a problem. Did I lose you guys?
No, we got you, Dan. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I heard somebody in the background there.
You're good.
It isn't just the drops that are the problems. There's no doubt they have to deal with that. That is way too many drops. MVS was open all day long, guys, all day long.
Yeah.
And they finally targeted him. He caught the ball and fumbled it. They targeted him again. He, it went in and out of his hands. That can't happen. Sky Moore can't do that. McCole Hardman can't muff the punt. You can't field the punt inside the 5. And while they recognize those mistakes, I think it was a stark reminder to each guy that he has to do his job and he has to be prepared. And I think motivationally, it serves a great deal. Do I think that systemically it showed a flaw that other teams can exploit? Well, no. But at the same time, I do think that it's a copycat league, and people are going to look at that game and they're going to say, look, the Denver Broncos were aggressive and physical. If we get aggressive and physical with them, maybe we can win too. So they need to expect more of that, and they need to figure out how to overcome that. That's part of the way the league works. That's why you see teams often fall into these 1, 2, 3 game losing streaks, is somebody cracks the code and the team that got the code cracked on them doesn't adjust quickly enough. So I think it's incumbent on the Chiefs to make sure that game serves as a motivation not to play like that again. I mean, you can't fail in all 3 phases. I've been so happy all year long with L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie. Sneed, I just didn't think had a good day. I think I don't know why, but he needs to assess why that is and make sure that doesn't happen and get back to the other way. So I really think that game serves as a motivator more than anything to say, get back to your identity, find what you guys do best and do it with all your might. Be prepared, be ready. I don't know whether they weren't ready. I don't know whether it was just the physical conditions of it being cold and the ball was hard, Mahomes throwing too hard. They need to look at every one of those facets and say, what went wrong? How do we fix it? And how do we make sure we don't repeat it?
Dan, do you think that there's a legitimate trust issue between Patrick Mahomes and his wide receivers? I noticed on social media on Sunday, former Chiefs wide receiver Garrett Dieter mentioned that he thinks that there is a trust factor that's missing right now between Mahomes and the receivers. And I know that, there's been much that's been made of the drops that have happened from various players throughout the season. And, this kind of prevailing thought that, okay, these wide receivers, it's going to take some time for them to grow and mature and get into it and all of that. But do you think, like, as it stands right now through 8 games, that there is a trust component that's lacking?
I'm going to give you my answer, but let me preface it with this. I don't have an inside knowledge from Patrick himself. And I hate to put words in his mouth. I would think to some degree, if I were in that position, it would be. I saw him very vehemently telling MVS, come back for the ball, come back for the ball. Is that a trust issue or is it just a frustration? In my mind, it's mostly frustration, a little bit of trust. And here's why I say that. If you think about from the snap to the throw, you're talking about a second and a half. I don't believe a quarterback, having played very little quarterback myself, but when I did, you're not thinking, oh my gosh, this is MVS, I'm not going to throw it to that route while you're loading the ball to throw. It happens too quick. You see your jersey color open and you throw it to him, right? You don't think that's Marquez. You don't think that's Sky Moore. You think that's my jersey. That's my guy. I'm throwing the ball there. So in that second and a half, I don't believe it's a trust issue. I believe it's just a vision issue. He sees it either open or closed, and he throws the ball. Prior to the snap, I think he would assess the likelihood of each route based on the defense he sees. And if he thinks it's a 50-50, that's where your trust issue might come into play, where he says, I'm not gonna risk it throwing it that direction because of ball security. And again, some of that may be route dependent, trusting the route versus the actual player in the route. And it also gets very confusing here too when the play design has XYZ receivers and you may not have the same X receiver in the play twice. It may be somebody different, right? It may be Noah Gray out there instead of Travis Kelce. Yes, I know he knows prior to the snap who's on the field, but there's a lot of muscle memory going on here and things happening so quick. So I think sometimes it's a trust factor with the route itself less than the receiver. But I think all of that is pre-snap information. I think once the ball's snapped, I think Mahomes is just using his vision and his gut feel. I don't think he actually thinks or mentally processes, I'm not throwing to this guy because he hasn't caught the last 3 balls.
All right, then Dan Israel, executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network, joining us. If you had to call it, do you think the Chiefs do or do not address wide receiver at the trade deadline?
I think they're taking calls, and I think they're making calls. I don't think they're desperate for it, but I think if somebody's in there, they're going to take a call or make a call on it. If they feel they can get somebody for a value that is fitting of the Chiefs, I think if you were to say, I think if we could tap Brett Veach right now and say, look, out of all the trading that might happen today, what's your biggest hope? It would be there. That's the way I feel. Although I will tell you, that game in Denver decimated the linebacking room. We're in a situation where if we had lost another linebacker, you would have been bringing a safety into that position, and that's not something you want either. So that might be on the foremost of his mind, but I think definitely those 2 positions are what they're looking for. And I also think they're going to expect more out of McCole Hardman. They're going to want him to be more than what he was on Sunday for sure.
Dan, of course, you guys go to Germany this weekend to take on a Dolphins team that, is probably the most high-powered offensive team in the NFL, then a bye week, and then a Super Bowl rematch. And I mentioned it yesterday that if things, don't get figured out and get right with Kansas City, we could be looking potentially at a 6-4 team by the time Thanksgiving week rolls around. In your mind, for Kansas City to avoid that fate over the next couple of weeks, what do they have to do to get things right?
I just think they have to execute at a higher level. I think they have good game plans. I think they have good talent. For whatever reason, they're not executing it. And again, Reed addressed, sometimes it's the play calling, sometimes it's, the timing, sometimes it's the matchups. But I think they've got to figure out a way to win their one-on-one battles and the totality. When you see a receiver catch the ball and start to move, make a change in direction before he's finished catching the ball, those are fundamentals, man. They have to go out and execute fundamentally at a much higher level than what they did Sunday. And to some degree, what they've done throughout this season, especially at the receiver position. They're well coached and they're taught to do that. But, sometimes simplicity in the design helps them focus on the fundamentals. I don't have to worry about, okay, I've got to do a double move here and I've got to shift in motion before, and then I've got to get back to this. I've got to fake the block. And, the more complicated you make it, the more steps you put in a guy's routine, the harder it gets for him. So I think, to some degree, they've got to dial back and kind of get back to that fundamental, which I know coaches, Coach Reed knows all of this stuff. And this is no surprise, but he has to figure out a way to allow them to execute higher with less flexibility maybe than what you would normally. To me, we have the talent. If we can execute, then I think we can. You got to trust a guy like Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be able to read Miami's defense. Maybe not 100%, but enough to win the game. So it's really imperative that when he throws a ball into the end zone and it hits me in the hands, that I make that a touchdown. And that didn't happen Sunday. And if they don't do that in Germany, it's going to be a long season because, as you said, the next 2 games, first of all, you'd go to Germany, you'd have all the international travel. If you have a bad game there, you've got to live with that on your bye. And then you come back and you play the team that wants revenge from Super Bowl 57. And the Eagles, they're just dirty tough, man. They're gritty. It just seems like, they'll stay in the game all 60 minutes with you, and the Chiefs can know what that's like, and they can do that. And if they return to that kind of identity, I think they can fare through these next 2 weeks, but it is not going to be an easy task. And if you don't do well in these next 2 weeks, it's going to make for an awful long, December. That's for sure.
All right, Dan, it is going to be a little bit different on timing. What do you guys have coming up on the Chiefs radio network from Germany, though?
Yeah, we got a lot, and it's unfortunate that we go on the air locally here in Kansas City at like 5 a.m. in the morning. We got a great show packed, but when we hit the network, we're going to have some good stuff. I think we go on the network maybe at 7 a.m., and we got Roger Goodell's planned. We're working on a window to try to get Rich Eisen on the broadcast, Jason McCourty on the broadcast from GMFB, and so it should be a really good pregame. It's just going to be can we coax people out of bed to watch and listen on Sunday morning? I hope so.
All right, Dan, you can hear it right here, or well, I should say over on KNSS on the Chiefs Radio Network. Looking forward to it. Good luck with the call. Safe travels. Stay healthy, and enjoy some, sausage and sauerkraut over there for us.
I'll bring you back some beer steins. How's that?
That sounds fantastic. Done deal. All right, Dan. We'll see you next week.
All right, guys. Go Chiefs.
There goes Dan Israel. Man, what a trip. What timing for that game. You want to talk about making a statement and answering some questions? Big opportunity for the Chiefs on Sunday morning. We'll dig further into that game, of course, as the week goes on, and see if guys are honestly just able to stay not ill. When I say healthy, like not get ill, I think becomes the biggest thing for the Chiefs this week. On the way out here, let's give away some HTO, Tommy. So I mentioned this earlier. If you're in costume today and go into HTO, you get happy hour pricing all day long, which means half-price cups of tea in-store only. So if you're in a Halloween costume, you can swing by. But we'll give away a free iced tea card right now and a free HTO Brew House card, which is available for all the coffee, iced or hot drinks for you. We'll do that to the first caller on the IHOP hotline. 869-1240 is that IHOP hotline. Jad will get us a winner. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this. All right, congratulations, Mark, for winning some tea and brew house from Tea and Coffee from HTO. We are happy to do those giveaways. I think that's it for the day. Winning by calling in the IHOP hotline, by the way, IHOP 869-1240. IHOP, where guests can enjoy the new pumpkin spice pancake combo. Also, if you're looking for more daily baseball coverage, we talked about the World Series Game 3 there in the first hour. You can find more coverage on the Odyssey app. Check out John Boy Media's Baseball Today, the hottest topics in baseball, Monday through Friday. Tommy, let's the two big headlines today that I've seen are James Harden getting traded to the Clippers. Not super interested in talking about that. It's a desperate move for the Clippers that's not going to do anything. They traded a lot to get him. So whatever there. If you want to talk about that, you can call us on the IHOP hotline. I'm probably more interested in this Dabo Swinney thing. Clemson is not as awesome as they usually are. And somebody called into like a hotline show they have set up with Dabo. And he was hot about, and I'm not going to read you the whole transcript, but basically he took offense to the caller questioning why they're paying him so much money to be 4-4, which obviously is a troll. I mean, come on, Dabo. Like, you got to be able to just slough that off unless you're feeling the heat and it just finally boiled over. It does. I get it. We're all human and nobody likes to be criticized or have trash talk to them, especially like right to them. But you are an $11 million coach. And do you really have to prove anything to this random caller to a call-in show? Nobody's actually questioning Dabo Swinney's success, are they? Like, he's been wildly successful at a place that wasn't that good before he got there. Nobody actually is questioning, but he clearly feels this internal pressure. He wouldn't have like reacted that way, which is kind of funny to me.
That's why coaches shows, like coaches call-in shows, to me are one of the most hilarious pieces of like sports media just in general, because you've got these coaches that, you know, typically it's with the play-by-play voice of the team, and you know they're talking about the game, and
we have three of them aired.
We have them right here
on
on this. We usually have them here, and like they're in public, usually at a restaurant, and the fan base typically comes out, and then you know if you take callers, typically it's kind of like, I guess I'll use the word Homer guests or callers or whatever. But then occasionally you get somebody that's not, you know, that is really disgruntled with the state of whatever program it is. And that's what happened with Clemson yesterday. And you know what? I'll be the first to admit I'm not a big Dabo Swinney fan. I never really have been. I think I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan for a variety of reasons. But I do actually side with him in this. Like, this is a guy that called, and I don't know if he's a troll or a legitimate caller or whatever, but you know, going on and on and on and on and on about, you know, all of this stuff. And like, it's kind of misplaced, I think. You know, yeah, Clemson, and I know that college football is a what have you done for me lately, you know, any kind of, you know, sport is, but they've had a tremendous amount of success over the years. They've struggled recently, yes, But the reason he makes $11 million a year is not because he's 4-4 this year. It's because of all of the crazy success that Clemson has had, a couple of years ago and before that also. That's why he makes $11 million a year. And he shouldn't have to justify that to a person without a face, right? Like a caller in a call-in show. So like I actually kind of side with Dabo on this, and I get that he's frustrated, and I'm okay that he let it out.
I don't care. I am a Dabo guy. I think he's old school. The thing that bothers me, really about the only thing that bothers me, is his resistance to the NIL era. Like, you don't get to be an $11 million a year head coach and get disgruntled when players get paid. That's what bothers me. But I do like that he's different, right? Like, he does it in a different way. And obviously his players buy into his, him running onto the field and doing all that stuff. And I mean, you just can't argue with the success. I mean, the guy has won since 2011, and he took over in 2008, right?
Right.
Since 2011, they've won no fewer than 10 games. They've won a whole lot more than that. They've reached a national championship game 4 times and won it twice. I mean, come on now. That's ridiculous.
He makes $11 million
right.
a year.
They went through a stretch, Tommy, from 2015 to 2020, where they were no worse at the end of the year than ranked 4th in the country. The last 2 years, they've had 3 losses each year. They went 10-3, 11-3. But, right there inside the top 15, and they're 4-4 this year. So what? He has not been as successful in the NIL era, right? You're going to have to adjust, Dabo. Like, when I see Dabo headlines, the thing that usually bothers me is it's him griping about that. Because that, like all of these wildly successful coaches, is going to make it harder for them to be dominant like they have been. It just is. And that's why Nick Saban gripes about it all the time. It's why Dabo gripes about it all the time. Like, this stranglehold that they've had is loosening. And that's the best thing that could have ever happened to the sport, by the way. That's why we're seeing Clemson not, just run through people.
Adapt or die. Adapt or die.
You better adapt. And that's what I say, like that. When I hear that yesterday, that's the pressure of that, right? It's the pressure of this world changing around you and you don't want it to. I understand it, right? I get it. It annoys me. I'll give you an example. It drives me nuts in what I do for a living to see the world change around me, in that the next generation coming up is so much more concerned about what they put out on social media, for free, by the way, to these companies, than actually creating something that brings the company they work for value. And it's the way they've been wired. I'll scream at the clouds about that, which is not worth my time, right? Because it's not going to do any good. And I love the value of social media. I use social media all the time. But like this changing of like what people are the most focused on, it drives me nuts. And I probably gripe about it too much. But I better adapt or die, right? Like, that's just the way it is. And that's what it is for Dabo. Like, he doesn't like this world changing around him, right? Back in the good old days, I could just get all the 5-star guys, and, however we needed to get them here, we could get them here, and nobody batted an eye at it. Well, now they're going other places, and I don't like it.
But you still have a tremendous amount of success in what you do every day, right? So like, the world might be changing around you.
It's debatable, but yeah, I'd like to think it's okay.
But you still, I mean, you're a successful businessman. You're a success in what you do. I'm giving you a lot of credit here, so I hope that you recognize that.
Jed, mark this audio, Jeff.
But you have a lot of success in your day to day, so you might not like the way the world is changing, but you're still successful.
Correct.
And you're compensated appropriately for it. And then if somebody calls you and says, "Why are you successful? You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be making the money that you make."
Right.
Then you have the right to be able to say, "Well, listen, buddy, like, if you don't like the way I'm doing it, why don't you apply for the job? Why don't you come in and do it?" So like, that's,
I would never say that to
to
anybody, by the way. That doesn't seem like good job security.
Although, no, it doesn't. But I mean, come on. Like, I think that he's getting defensive about the work that he's done historically and the way that he has been compensated for it. I get it. I understand it. Like, if I feel like I've had a lot of success in my career and what I've done, even if the world is changing and times are changing and all of that, if I feel like historically I've done really, really good work and then it's being called into question by somebody, and not even just called into question, but questioning why I'm being compensated the way that I am, of course, I'm going to get defensive about that too. So I completely understand where Dabo's coming from on that.
And that's where we differ. Tom, I should print out all the angry emails from TV. Not as many on radio, which surprises me because I take far greater stances and give more opinions on the radio. I don't really do that on TV. It's different, avenues of things. I mean, all the time, people talking trash about whatever they saw in the sportscaster didn't see. And half the time they were watching a different station and they don't even know what they're talking about. But like, bothers me zero. I've been having to monitor like the comment sections of Facebook, which is the greatest cesspool of all time. So maybe that's why this seems, because it doesn't bother me. Don't care. Like, do not care one tiny shred, because I know that, the Karens come out. No offense to any Karens out there, real Karens, but you know what I mean? Like, they have the loudest voices, but they're not the majority. Like, and so it doesn't bother me. And I have to, my wife gets so frustrated in the business when somebody will say something absolutely ridiculous about like a worker or something, or complain about something that they got for free. Like, I'm going to complain about something for free. Like that. I mean, and I'm like, Michelle, like, that is such a small, like, don't let yourself get bogged down by these people. They have the loudest voices because they've been given this megaphone. But that's not the majority. Like, that's a very, 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 very small percentage of the way most people actually feel. Like, don't you feel that way about politics for the most part? Like, the loudest voices don't represent the majority. They're just the loudest voices. Like, talk to people. If you just talk to people, So it surprises me a little bit for Dabo in a world where you've got to take, I assume you've got to take criticism literally on like an hourly level from people. Right? You probably get booed in the stadium. You got to take it face to face. You got to take it on a call-in show. Like, he must be criticized all the time.
Yeah.
Why then does that bother him so much? That's what surprises me.
I think it's
because
just
as somebody who gets criticized all the time, like, you develop this thick skin, and it's like, oh, I don't care what that person thinks. I mean, you do, but you don't.
I don't think that Dabo has thin skin because he reacted in the way that he did. I think that
kind of does.
I think that this was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I think that he gets all the, I mean, how many times have we heard Dabo do this? This is the first time I've heard him do this.
Well, we've heard him rant about stuff.
But not about specific criticisms from the fan base or like whatever. This was just, amplified because it was on a radio show. And I think he finally got tired of it and broke. And that's going to happen from time to time. Like, I can have the thickest skin in the world, and I can have, people. I mean, I'm kind of the same way that you are in the, I've worked in media for a long time too. I've been criticized before. I've had people come up to me in public, and tell me that they don't like me or what. Like, it happens. But I think that when you're a head coach for a national championship winning college football team in Clemson, South Carolina, and you're getting all of this criticism heaped on you after everything that you've done for that fan base and for that program historically, and then all of a sudden it's like all of that's thrown out the window. You're 4-4, you're making $11 million a year. Why? I think it's just the straw that broke the camel's back. I get it. And I think that, and again, I can't believe I'm defending Dabo because I don't really like him. I never really have. But like, I get it. I get why he broke. Like, it's like, are you guys ungrateful? Like, I brought you national championships.
Yeah, but
that's
it's not
why
you
I'm
guys.
paid $11 million a year.
It's a guy. It's not you guys. It's
but
a guy.
He's like the embodiment of the criticism.
Of what, though?
Like,
I mean, I cannot imagine that there's actual criticism from Clemson fans coming to Dabo. Like, there is no way.
Sure they're 4-4. I mean, like, come on. Like, I think that the fan base, they're expecting, they're entitled to national championships now.
Some of the greatest coaches do this, right? What do you think Nick Saban's going to do if he takes criticism? He's not going to react well to that. Some don't. Like, it just depends. Some coaches use it, right? I cannot imagine, like, Greg Marshall used criticism and like took notes and had receipts and all that stuff, right? Like Nick Saban. There's NFL
Deion
coaches
is doing that a lot.
Yeah, I think Dion is using it. I think Dion's using it to his advantage. I'm not sure how real Dion's is. I think he's doing a really good job at it. I don't know if it personally actually offends him or if he's just playing his cards right because he knows he has to. We'll see. Time will tell on that. Some of the greatest coaches do it. Some of the greatest coaches don't do it either. What is Bill? You think Bill Self cares about criticism? He like so it goes like you can do it both ways. Obviously, like you can be criticized and not care and not worry about it and not think about it, or you can use it as motivation. I don't know where Dabo falls on that because I don't know if he's ever really faced criticism. And if he is now because they're 4-4, I guess time will tell. But I don't know that Dabo's going to use that in the right way. Can he do that like Nick Saban's done that? Can he do that like Greg Marshall did that here so well? Like, I don't know the answer to that. And I guess that's what we'll find out because clearly he is feeling it, right? He's feeling that criticism big time. So we'll see how they respond to it. We'll see how he responds to it. I'm curious to see it. I was very surprised by that, to see that sort of reaction on a local call-in show.
I would have done the same thing if I were him.
Yeah, I don't care that he did it. It doesn't bother me. It just surprised me is all. I don't know. I just didn't. And maybe I should have seen it, but I didn't see that coming. And I can't believe if there's actual criticism of Dabo Swinney, I can't believe that either. There cannot be criticism coming from Clemson fans. They're just like, that would be absurd. And maybe that was the reason.
It might be the first time in God knows how long that people are actually talking about something that happened during a coach's show. You know what I mean? Like typically those aren't like headline grabbing
coaches shows are so fun,
right?
I hosted all the coaches shows back in college, and they were so fun because you could get those guys to like cut loose. Like that's where you saw the Colorado State coach make his ridiculous comments about Dion. Like that's where you could really get them a little bit because they're feeling it and everybody's like cheering for them. It's like it's
like a pep
stuff.
rally. It's like a weekly pep rally on the radio.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Except now everything lives forever. And I'm sure Dabo regrets that rant. I would imagine. Maybe not. Maybe he doesn't care. 869-1240 is the number to call on the IHOP hotline. Happy Halloween, everybody. Bundle up. It'll be a chilly one. We'll come back with more Sports Daily right after this. Is this Jad? Is this the one Mitch Holthus hates? Is this the Exorcist one?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Jad famously played this for me Friday. I guess Mitch Holthus hates this movie. And so every year when he comes on Steve and Ted, Jad plays this and it freaks him out. I would have not guessed that's what this is from. I don't know that I've ever seen that movie. Again, I avoid scary movies like The Plague. I hate them. So I just I won't ever watch that movie. That's for sure.
That's fantastic.
Can they really for real though? Can they stop previewing horror movies at 3:00 in the afternoon during a football game? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What is the FCC doing? I can't cuss on air, but we can show that to my kids during a football game? Like, what's worse, cussing or seeing this terrifying, demon monster, snarl at something? Like, what's really worse for the kids? What are we doing here, FCC? If we're going to allow that, let the language fly. That's what I
remember. I remember when I was a kid, I went to a sleepover, like a birthday party around Halloween. And I didn't watch scary movies, wasn't allowed to watch them, really didn't have any interest in watching them. And I remember they started watching, and I think I'm going to probably butcher the name of the title, but it was like The People Who Live Under the Stairs. You ever heard of that one, or The Things That Live Under? It was absolutely terrifying. And I'm like 7 years old or 8 years old.
The Wes Craven classic.
For life. Oh my God, that scared the crap out of me. And so at that point, I'm done. I don't have a desire to watch. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of horror movies that I've ever watched.
Same. My early memory that traumatized me, and my oldest daughter is this way too, and I feel so bad for her. Something that scares her will scare her forever. I have 4 older brothers, and I was supposed to be in bed, and they were all watching Pet Sematary. And I remember vividly, and it's one of my, what do they call those core memories? Like the ones that when you're really little. Yeah. I remember vividly being in the bathroom, peeking out the crack of the door, and seeing Pet Sematary, at least parts of it, wrecked me. How old am I now? For the next, 30, 35 years, still. And I just I avoid them like the plague too. I don't know how many I've actually seen. I remember, and it's a problem when you get older for things like birthday parties. I was in high school, and everybody knew this at this point, so they loved to mess with me. And it was we're going to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new one, when they redid that one. I don't remember when
Matthew
that was.
McConaughey was in that one, right?
I don't know. Was he? Maybe.
Pretty sure he was.
Know. Maybe he was the chainsaw guy. I don't know. Whatever. I was so I went in with a hat and put my hat down over my eyes. So I basically just listened to the movie, and I had to, don't tell mom here, but I had to sneak in a dip. You remember those little pouches,
Sure.
A dip. So to cool my nerves a little bit, and I'm just sitting there shaking my head. My legs are shaking. I hate all of you for making me be here right now. I don't like them. And I really don't like when they preview them in the middle of the afternoon, because I know that it will freak my kids out for months if they see that.
I'm not a haunted house guy. I don't like doing those things. I remember in a previous life when I worked in music radio, I used to have to do live broadcasts out at Field of Screams. And so I did that. And then I stayed by the entrance, so I never really had to go in. But one time I did go through, and it was, I don't know why I did. It was awful. I don't know why anybody, and maybe I'm
almost
sure there's people out there that are
the answers
this.
to that is for a girl. I mean, that's probably
I think that's probably what it was. Because actually, you're right. Because my now wife brought out some friends. We were just dating, and came to visit me at the live broadcast, and I was, I'm going to be tough.
It's
and go
always
through
for a girl. Every
I don't
time.
know why anybody finds it fun to be scared. I've never got that.
What's your visceral reaction to being scared? Because mine is fight or flight, right?
Mine is just flight. Mine is run.
No, see, mine
run
is
now.
If I normally my visceral gut reaction is like white hot anger. I come from a family of redheads, right? So I think that's probably where it comes from. Like if I bang my arm on something, if something hurt, my first reaction is to get really mad about it. And it lasts, that long. It's like real quick. I'm afraid when I go to those things, and we've all seen these videos, right? Like if somebody like grabs me to scare me like that, I'm going to punch them. And so I'm like, no, I probably shouldn't go to those because it's too much. And like we have one of our meteorologists right now loves to scare people, and it's hilarious. Like it's so funny because we have all the dark studios and you can't really see, and like he'll jump out and I'm like, you got to be careful. And I'm going to set myself an asterisk right now. Like if you scare me, which you're totally allowed to do, like I'm all in for the fun. You cannot get mad if for some reason, like I punch you in the arm or something. I just like, that's for me. That's the other thing. Jad is just chiming in back there. I picture Jad as like a horror movie junkie.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Why, Jad? Like, why would you want to spend your time, which we have so little of anyway, to consume things that either scare you or are so gross they make you uncomfortable?
Because when you guys are talking about what your primal response is, mine is adrenaline, heightened senses, a lot of things that feel really good.
But okay, so suspense doesn't bother me. Like a good suspense thriller doesn't bother me. Usually what I don't like about horror movies is the gory stuff that I'm just like, like what? Like what is the point of that? Like scare me, like jump out and scare me. That's okay. Like I get that piece of the adrenaline rush. Like I'm the same, like the anger thing, but the goriness, like, you don't need that.
Yeah, it works. I mean, it makes you uncomfortable. It's something that you shouldn't see, and it's one of those things that's just because blood's supposed to be on the inside. So when you see it on the outside, it's kind of horrifying. It's terrifying.
It's kind of that, forbidden, like, you know, not supposed to see it. And then you do, and then you react. I don't know. I'm with you, Jacob. Like that's one thing you and I can agree on. Not a fan of it. I will never willingly sit down and watch one of those
on
movies.
Film. We have got to get a Sports Daily trip to like a midnight corn maze or something.
No thanks.
Oh, that's going to be funny.
No, that's a really bad idea. 869-1240. We'll come back. That's a really evil laugh, too. Picked up probably from one of the 1,000 horror movies Jad's watched over the years. We'll be back. We'll tell you what's on tap today on the network next on Sports Daily.
Jim was at the laundromat when he heard his ear said, "Maraca, senor," but his nose said, "Hey, freshest scent ever." Following his nose, Jim found a man pouring Gain scent beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, "Sir, your scent maracas smell amazing." You could call them scent maracas, but most noses call them Gain scent beads. Try Gain scent beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
Your home is the place where you know your loved ones are secure. But the things that keep your home protected can't keep pests at bay. That's where Raid comes in. For 60 years, Raid's scientists have worked to protect people around the world. With trusted research, ingredients, testing standards, and product efficacy, Raid seeks to create a better future for all, especially the ones you love most. Raid, protection for all.
Mr. Electric's hand-picked team of licensed, certified, and background-checked electricians love what they do every day. For them, it's not a job. It's a passion for getting out every day and fixing homeowners' electrical problems, doing electrical work right the first time, and knowing that they have the power to make things better for you and family. That's Mr. Electric.
We're Mr. Electric. We have the power to make things better.
Schedule an on-time appointment by visiting MrElectricWichita.com.
When people have a craving to explore new and traditional Asian cuisines, they head to P.F. Chang's, where scratch-made dishes come from the 2,000-year-old tradition of wok cooking. P.F. Chang's wanted to explore new possibilities for their website. They turned to AmericanEagle.com. AmericanEagle.com re-architected P.F. Chang's website, integrating multiple third-party systems to create a unified digital experience. The results? Improved page speed and performance, personalized content based on users' location, intuitive online ordering, an increase in organic search visibility, and a 40% increase in new users. For scratch-made Asian cuisine, visit your local P.F. Chang's or go to pfchangs.com for website design, development, digital marketing, and hosting that produce efficiency, revenue, and results. Visit AmericanEagle.com. P.F. Chang's and AmericanEagle.com. Another example of the best businesses in the world, turning to the best in the business for websites. Go to AmericanEagle.com or call 877-WEB-NOW1. That's 877-WEB-NOW1.
Imagine the sweet, tangy, rich flavor of barbecue sauce and the smoky, salty taste of crispy bacon. Well, you don't have to imagine any longer. Try the Spangles Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's a third pound of Black Angus steak burger on a butter-toasted bun, then topped with smoky barbecue sauce, crispy bacon, and onions. The Spangles Western Bacon Cheeseburger. The perfect burger for your sweet, tangy, smoky, savory cravings.
Freshness made to order. Spangles, it just tastes better.
Here's Renee Stephen from Spangles with a sweet treat.
Come in and try our Gerdelli Sea Salt Caramel Apple Pie Slide and make it your new favorite treat. Stop in soon because it's only back for a limited time.
Back at Spangles, the Caramel Apple Pie Slide. We start with an entire slice of warm apple pie and add layers of creamy vanilla soft serve and top it off with Ghirardelli Sea Salt Caramel. It's a sweet spin on a time-treasured treat. Spangles, it just tastes better.
The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888. That's 888-8888.
Monday Night Football last night. The game on 98.7 and 1330 KNSS. The first place Detroit Lions beat the Las Vegas Raiders 26-14. Starting at corner on defense for the Lions, Jerry Jacobs from Hutchinson Community College. He had a couple of tackles and a hit on the quarterback. The Lions are 6-2. They're in the number 2 spot in the NFC. We'll talk pro football tonight on the weekly edition of the Chiefs Kingdom Show, 6 o'clock this evening, hosted by the play-by-play voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holtus, right here on KFH. Chiefs coming off their worst game of the season, that loss at Denver on Sunday, but no time to wallow. Next up for the Chiefs, it's the top 2 teams in the conference, the Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins, playing in Frankfurt, Germany on Sunday morning. A lot to talk about tonight on the Chiefs Kingdom Show, 6 o'clock here on KFH. And a happy birthday to former Wichita Wranglers manager and Baltimore Orioles skipper Dave Tremblay, 72 today. I'm Ted, the Sports Head. College men's basketball, one exhibition game for Kansas State as K-State is hosting Emporia State in Manhattan. The Wildcats and the Hornets. Coverage of K-State basketball begins at 6 o'clock Wednesday evening, right here on 97.5 and 1240 KFH. K-State basketball brought to you by Taco Bell.
Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, everybody. That's it for us here on Sports Daily. Glad to be with you here on this Halloween Tuesday. Be safe out there, everybody. Bundle them up. Watch for cars. If you're driving, watch for kids. Jim Rome follows us at 11. Bob and Jeff, 2 to 4. You've got the Chiefs Kingdom Show right here tonight at 6 o'clock, something we did not talk about. Naquan Tomlin suspended indefinitely from K-State basketball. We'll get into that storyline tomorrow, K-State fans. We will also have some other things to get that we didn't get to today. Good luck, Rangers, tonight. Give us all the good energy. Happy Halloween, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.